thing. Okay, so now you're learning, you've got to get, your job is to get round there.
With Benson and Clegg. Handcrafted cufflinks, luxury accessories, and a proper British style. Trusted since the 1930s by royalty. Get 15% off with code KARATE15, exclusively for Anxious Black Belt podcast listeners. Shop now at bensonandclegg.com. Hi guys, welcome to another mini documentary episode. Today I am with my good friend Jamie Clubb from Chimera Martial Arts, and we're going to learn about his approach to the martial arts and cross-training, I suppose.
Well, generally what happens here.
What's Chimera?
Okay, so CCMA, Clubb Chimera Martial Arts, the first part of it's my name, Clubb, C-L-U-B-B, okay, so already where the confusion begins. Because a lot of people assume it's a club, when in fact the last thing it is actually a club. So, what it is it's a service that's provided for private individuals, groups, associations. A lot of my training is on a one-to-one basis or a one-to-two basis or a small group basis by appointment, and then I also teach seminars and things like that as well. So that's what it is in business terms, if you like. The chimera, the symbol that we use here in the middle there,
Which should be Chimera.
Chimera, yes, according to Greece, yeah, is that Greece? That and definitely not chimera, which a lot of people say when I do the European spelling of it.
All right.
Okay, yeah, but it's just it works well for the acronym CCMA. So the chimera I chose because it's obviously it's a multifaceted icon. From Greek mythology, but it has negative connotations. It was the baddie, if you like, in Greek mythology, and it's representative of chaos. So it's often when people use a metaphor of a chimera, it doesn't always mean a positive thing. So it means chaos. And so obviously violence is chaos. That is often to use another metaphor, the elephant in the room, if you like. Okay. So the chaos of violence, sometimes the chaos of stress and pressure that we have when we do physical activities and things like that. But you'll notice there is a compass behind it, okay, which is direction. So rather than a map, people get a compass. So we give them a direction through the chaos, and the chaos is often all the various different information, if you like, that comes in and when people are under pressure. So that's the Clubb Chimera part of it.
So you've been training in many martial arts. You've done BJJ, you've done Muay Thai, you've done kickboxing, you've done some form of traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
What sparked you up to blend all into the Chimera? Yeah. Where got many heads, do many things, yes. Many solutions to many problems.
That's right.
How did that come
up? So it just came about because that was the way that I wanted to teach. And that's where initially I wanted to just teach a form of self-protection. That was the idea, is I wanted to teach realistic, honest self-protection, very much within the Jeff Thompson mold. Again, was one of my big influences. But very quickly I started to discover that I wanted the cross-training element to be there. As I said, I tried to run a club at one point for about 10 years. If that format didn't suit me, I found that I worked much better by working with clients on an individual basis, or other clubs on an individual basis, and other instructors. People would come to me with their problems in martial arts training or self-protection, and I'd find a way through that. And I found that there was, as you said, many heads, many ways, and that's what I found the joy of doing that. So rather than creating a system as such, I'd much rather tailor it to the individual and also to the different needs of other people.
How if I came to you saying I want to improve my karate,
yes.
Let's say I'm missing some components.
Yeah.
How do you get about to help the individual? Do you have an assessment first?
Yes.
Then you are kind of building that on, thinking about it, and that's what you need, that's what you're good at, that's what you're bad at. Let's work on either building the skills you've got already or improving the ones you're missing.
Well, as you just, again, hit the nail on the head in the fact that somebody would come to me and they would say, I've got a problem with this particular area, okay? And so straight away, we would look at that particular area. I mean, I like to do something which is called quarrying techniques. So I like to do a lot of live practice, and the live practice is in the form of games. So obviously there's a lot around sparring. You know, people have different opinions on ideas of sparring, and but for me, you know, especially when it comes to an activity like martial arts, for example, the live practice is what brings out what it was supposed to be. It was always supposed to be a dynamic activity, and I find there's lots of core issues that people have in martial arts practice that takes it away from what the root and core of what all martial arts really is all about, as far as I'm concerned. And that is the live training, that is the live practice. But again, we have issues with sparring because people get fearful of sparring, and in many cases, it's a healthy fear of sparring. I mean, when you look at the word, the expression pressure testing, it's there. But if we make live practice be a game and be a regular part of our training, then you have a chance of mitigating that fear and the enjoyment part of it that can be in there. Obviously, we have different types of sparring, but again, a lot of the sparring is very specific in nature. So back to my point about like quarrying techniques and things like that. So a lot of the time, I like to get people to discover what they're something. Okay, so let's say, for example, you were saying, your particular, let's say, for instance, and I know it's not your case with you, Les, but let's say your particular style of karate wasn't big on a lot of the sophisticated punching. It was very much straight punching based. Exactly. And we know that happens with sport karate. It works in often very, very linear. Okay, so things like hooks and stuff like that, for example, let's say, for argument's sake, there wasn't a lot there to say, well, how would I work the hooks and that? My way to do that would be, rather than shutting down the traditional way to do that, and when I say traditional, I mean combat sports as well, and I mean also, combatives and self-defense as well. When I'm saying traditional, it's a small t traditional. The prescribed way, like that, would be to put you in a position like that, and to say, okay, right. And again, what often we might begin with, we say, close your hand into a fist like that. Okay, your elbow is going to come up into here to make a hook punch. We're going to be hitting with these two knuckles here, unless we're going to the sort of the American style, where you might turn it like this, or you might turn like this. We've got different types of hooks. For example, we've got a long range hook, we've got a mid range hook, we've got maybe a close range hook, shovel hook, etc. We've got all these kind of hooks, but let's say, okay, we'll just go basic hook, sort of a mid-range hook like that, okay, and then you're going to either going to pivot your back foot or pivot your back foot and your front foot, because there's different ways of doing it to get that rotation, and we might be teaching a hook like that, and that would be the prescribed way to do that. So you'd be doing that, and you do that, okay, and we'd go repetition, we'd work that, and I'd be making little, to make it exact. Micro adjustments, because I'd be changing like this, because I'm making sure that you're hooking the way I'm hooking. For example, let's say, I'm not that big on, unless I'm coming in close, I'm not that big at doing the front foot pivot for different reasons. So I make sure, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do exactly like that. I'll get that part of it. Then I might get the focus mitts out. Okay. And I make you hit the focus mitts, and should we develop power and accuracy? And that's good. And then the next thing I might do is I go, okay, right, we're going to do some sparring now. And to which point you're going, where do I land this hook? When is this hook going to come in? Oh, I'm frightened of landing the hook. I don't know where to do it. And even though I've gone, okay, this is the application, you hit me here, this is how you do it, and all the rest of it. Because the problem with this model, with this basic model to begin from this perspective, is that your body mechanics are not going to be the same as when you put it under pressure. And that is something I think a lot of people tend to forget, or they don't realize what the dissonance is between non-live practice and live practice. When you do live practice, but people often think, well, we've got to do live practice. Why? Because you've got to see how it works for real. That's just the argument there. And when they talk about the mental aspect and the emotional aspect, but they don't think about necessarily the physiological aspect totally on this one, and the body mechanics behind it. Because the truth of the matter is that, okay, so you go to land a hook on me when we're sparring, so like this, okay, so now you notice straight away, immediately you had to adapt your hook. So now you had to adapt your hook. But I've been training you to do this mid-range hook, like this. So for ages I've been training and I want you to land the mid-range hook. And so now you're having to work out your distancing and how to do that. But also, even when you land that hook, it's going to be different, because you're going to be altering it. It's not going to be the same necessarily be on the focus mitts, because the focus mitts you can probably maintain a certain type of pressure because it's going to be a prescribed pressure. It's going to be like, however hard it is.
And it's a small point, right? Head is quite big.
Exactly.
And it's not straight.
And it doesn't look like a focus mitt. Okay. And then people try and get around that, but they go, okay, well, we can have these mannequin dummies and all the rest of it. And you go, but the hook isn't just for the head either. It's for it's other different parts of the body as well. So then you've got to use a bob doll. But then how do you move that around? And then you can get on and on and on and on. When in fact you're going, okay, we need to have that dynamic. Now, to me, my view might be, I tell you what, Les, pretend you haven't got any knowledge of hooks whatsoever, which I know you have. Okay. My view would be, okay, I tell you what, let's try this as an exercise. My job is only to defend. I can't hit you at all. Okay. So I'm going to keep my hands up here. Okay. Normally would be wearing boxing gloves because again, boxing's a great cross-training place to find hooks. Wherever the argument is, I defend this, I'll die on that hill. Boxers are the best people at throwing hooks. I know it might sound sacrilege, but they throw more of them in full contact situations. And guess what? They're paid to do it. There's a whole other argument about that, about the reason why we have certain resources that we can go towards. But in professional sports, boxing is the way, and they only have to think about throwing 4 punches really. Okay, and throw them really, really well. And they're paid to throw them really, really well. Okay, so my view here is that I'll be keeping my hands up here and I say, I'm not allowed to hit you in any way. So immediately you haven't got that fear. But you've also got a live situation here because now my view is like, you can only throw a left hook. Okay, so you can only throw a left hook. So here, okay, so it's not getting in. It's not getting in, so you have to find a way to get it in. Okay, so this is just it. So just like that. So let's say so my view here would be, okay, I'd even take it back a stage further. So my view here would be like, you don't know how to throw, let's say you don't know how to throw a left hook. Yeah, exactly. So I go, you're only allowed to hit this side of my head. Okay? You're only allowed to hit this side of my head. So what I would be doing, okay, so exactly, so that's exactly it. So you might to start with, you might try to, if you do straight punches, you might try and alter your angle and try and do a straight from there. But you quickly start discovering, I can't. So this starts happening naturally. So again, that starts happening naturally. So that's how we begin. And then the next round might be like, okay, well, I'll tell you what's going to happen, Nicky. You can throw that. Okay, and I'm only allowed to throw technique. My right straight. Okay, so now you're learning this kind of thing. Okay, so now you're learning your job is to get round there and now to try and catch the side of me here. So now immediately, okay, you've got a reason in order to do that. We might do things like, and we did this in a seminar that I did with you and Tommy Joe Moore, where we had a game where rather than hit the head, it was just like try and tag the shoulder. And why did I do that? Because again, that there would immediately start teaching your position in order to if I say you've got to get around the back of my shoulder, you've got to touch. Yeah. Now see how you have to reposition. So you start learning about positioning. You start learning about positioning straight away. So that's an example. So again, you can do a series of games, and then you add other constraints in place there. So you make people move their head or defend because you've got straights coming in, and the reason in order to be able to throw that hook. I'll add in other things as well. Like I might have to do 2 different. I can hit you with 2 straights.
You're just building. Exactly. Naturally, like the animals do.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Why do you think that in traditional martial arts the play learning is so frowned upon?
Yeah,
because it was don't play in dojo, be serious, be committed, practice. Right?
Yes, exactly. Because it's quasi-traditional. As far as I'm concerned, because if you actually look back in some of the older manuals and books, and certainly from people who've discovered, even like historian Robert W. Smith, who wrote probably most extensively on martial arts and any Westerner for most of the 20th century, along him and Don Draeger, of course, who worked together, and that not necessarily everything I agree upon what he's written, but in terms of one thing that did come out was that he noticed in China there was a lot of play. There's a lot of Chinese martial arts. There's a lot of play. There was a lot of people playing, and with techniques, getting people used to doing stuff like that. Which again, there's a lot of,
For me, coming kind of from a Kyokushin tradition, hard training, maybe it's a Polish communism way that the communists didn't allow the play. Silliness. And going to the wrestling, it was like, we're just having fun all the time.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a much quicker way to achieve your outcomes.
Yes.
Plus a nicer way and kind of more natural way of learning. So personally for me, I follow your footsteps as well. We're using more of a wrestling methodology in our karate training. And I can say that for me, it works better. Yeah. If you're preserving tradition, maybe you want to have that linear micro adjustment stuff.
But I believe there's a place for it all. I mean, in the respect that, but I think that in many ways why I'm saying we're being more traditional. Okay, well, there's a couple of things I want to hear there. Number one, with Kyokushin, I found that, these things find a way because on the surface, it's this very traditional, very linear, very strict sort of system. But the practitioners of Kyokushin played outside.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's changed a lot from when I started,
If you look at people like John Bloomin, for example, 1960s, so that's Kyokushin. Yes. Okay. So that's Kyokushin. So you find, but there's a lot of, like in the Netherlands, you have this strong hotbed of Kyokushin karateka who want to cross train. It's not enough for what they found. Masayama, kind of did his thing with Shotokan to become Kyokushin. But then there are other people who are training under him and honoring in many ways his spirit. Maybe not literally what is being told there, but often it's the spirit of what he was doing because they're looking outside of it. Cross training, the need to cross train, which is play. Cross training is play. I mean, this is because it's that bit about going, okay, I want to bring this element in, I want to bring that, which is all heresy, of course. A lot of the time, John Blooming's there going, okay, well, it's the punches aren't good enough. We need boxing. Yeah. Okay, the grappling by this stage isn't good enough because of course, so we need judo. So you've got that sort of type of MMA prototype going on in there, and then you've got other people there going out of the Netherlands going, our kicks still aren't good enough. Muay Thai, we're getting beaten up by Nanak Mois, okay? So we're going to go over there and we love it. So we're going to learn more and we're going to bring that back in and we're going to bring Muay Thai back to the Netherlands and then we're going to go, I tell you what, but we've got our own ideas now and we're going to develop that into Dutch kickboxing and then bring it back to Thailand, which is lovely because the Thais then go, oh no, what's this now? Now we've got a sort of more efficient punching with low kicks going on and now and that. So we're going to have to alter some of our Muay Thai. So you've got this wonderful feedback loop that goes on. But my point is that it'll find a way. So I'm saying it's in there. So you can either embrace that play and look at it at the root of what you do, or you can fight against it, but it will find a way. It will, like nature, it will find a way. It'll find its way out of it through your students, but and also what you'll find you'll do. And you'll keep maybe justifying going on, no, this is still part of the tradition. But in fact, it isn't. You're still playing. My other view is this. I love the concept of getting experience, which is what we get from play, from live practice, like devising games and things like that, and then finding ways to be able to practice it on your own. Okay. So for me, for the most part, it's going to be some form of shadow work or straight onto the bag. So it's like, so in many ways, a client will come to me, they'll train, and at the end of the session, we'll go, rather than the normal way of going, okay, you learn the technique, we do the focus mitts and then we spar. Usually when you're sparring, you're often half knackered anyway. So you're going to only play your A game and your technique will be sloppy. Why not have that a bit, top end that a bit, put the sparring a bit early on and then go, let's record these techniques on the pads. Let's record these techniques. And they say, why? So you can leave the lesson and you haven't got the excuse to go, I've got no one to train with. I can practice it on my own. I can shadow those techniques. I can shadow those grappling techniques. I mean, there's no surprising the fact that outside of a Monty Python gag, there is, wrestlers are really good at shadowing what they do. They've got, one of the things I noticed when I did wrestling, and I haven't had as much experience as you, Les, but back when I was doing freestyle, I found that the warm-ups, which kill a lot of people, but they kill a lot of people because you're wrestling on your own. Most of the time you're practicing your double legs, you're practicing your single legs, you're practicing your sprawling. And, and sprawling is, let's face facts, when you do repetition sprawling, it's a load of burpees. A lot of time you're doing it, but it's got a purpose. So these things all come out as well, this sort of shadowing. But here's the thing. So if you get a client, taking it from a karate perspective, and I teach a lot of karate, although I don't teach karate. But my view is this, and karate and Chinese martial arts, kung fu, taekwondo, etc. get the experience and then say, okay, now find a way to record that experience physically, which is a kata. Which is a kata. Yeah. So you're going backwards rather than teaching someone the kata, then the application, then doing it, then testing it live. You're kind of starting it the other way around.
I think that's how it was.
Yes, exactly.
That's my firm belief that the kata was the end product of everything we've been doing.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly it was flipped because it was easier to teach hundreds of thousands of people.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Exactly. I do believe that. And like the same thing as what we said when we had our discussions on the podcast, what you're doing and what an increasing number of karateka are doing is that getting everybody establishing a closer baseline to what the original students of karate probably were doing. Yeah. And that is having some experience in grappling. Yeah. As soon as you know how to wrestle and you start doing a lot of the classical martial arts, a lot of the traditional martial arts, kung fu's and taekwondo's, suddenly these applications and movements suddenly start making more sense.
Yep. Thank you very much, Jamie.
No problem.
Where people can find you?
Okay, they can find me on clubbchimera.com. So that's CLUBBCHIMERA.com. Okay, and that's the main hub for my activity. On Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I have a channel there and I have my own podcast, of course, as well. But the main hub for all that you'll find is on the website with a regularly updated blog.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to Jamie's podcast, where have you been? And go and do it now.